The man who walked into Stuttgart's most prestigious Mercedes dealership on a cold November morning looked like he'd slept under a bridge. His clothes were mud-stained and torn, his beard wild and unkempt, and his shoes were held together with duct tape. He smelled of rain and earth, and when he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. But what this man was about to do would shock everyone in that showroom, and honestly, they had it coming. Stay with me, because what happens next will make you question everything you think you know about judging people by their appearance. Trust me, you won't see this coming. David Mueller was once a familiar face in this dealership. 10 years ago, he'd bought his first luxury car here, back when he was a successful architect with a beautiful home and a loving family. But life has a way of stripping everything away when you least expect it. A drunk driver had taken his wife and daughter on a sunny afternoon. The grief swallowed him whole. He lost his business, his home, and eventually his will to exist in the world that had betrayed him so completely. For 3 years, David lived on the streets, punishing himself for surviving when they hadn't. But 6 months ago, something changed. An old homeless man named Frank, dying of pneumonia in the alley they shared, had grabbed David's hand with surprising strength and whispered words that pierced through his fog of despair. "Your girls wouldn't want you here. Honor their memory by living. Please, son, live for those of us who can't." Frank died that night, and David woke up the next morning with a clarity he hadn't felt in years. He started small, day labor, construction sites. He worked 16-hour days, saved every cent, and slowly, painfully began rebuilding. He'd remembered an old investment account he'd forgotten about, one his wife had insisted they never touch. When he finally accessed it, tears streamed down his face. It had grown to nearly 2 million euros. She'd saved him even in death. Now David stood in the dealership that once knew his name, watching 3 salespeople glance at him with barely concealed disgust. A young woman actually covered her nose. The manager, Klaus, a man who'd once shaken David's hand and called him a valued client, didn't recognize him at all. Instead, Klaus loudly told his staff to handle the situation before someone important arrived. A junior salesman named Thomas approached nervously. "Sir, I think you might be in the wrong place. There's a shelter 2 blocks down that can help you." His voice was kind but dismissive, the way you'd speak to a lost child. David's voice was steady despite his appearance. "I'd like to purchase 5 Mercedes trucks. The Actros series, fully loaded." The showroom erupted in laughter. Klaus's booming voice carried across the marble floors. "Security! We have a vagrant harassing customers." 2 guards approached, hands already reaching for David's arms. But David pulled a wrinkled envelope from his coat. Inside was a certified bank check for 1.8 million euros. His hands trembled as he held it up. "I'm prepared to pay cash today. 5 trucks. I'm starting a logistics company that will employ exclusively homeless individuals who want to rebuild their lives." The laughter died like a candle in the wind. Klaus snatched the check, examined it, his face draining of color. It was real. Thomas stood frozen, shame creeping across his young face. The woman who'd covered her nose suddenly found the floor fascinating. David's voice grew stronger. "For 3 years I lived in the streets of this city. I watched people like you step over dying men. I felt invisible. Frank, a man you'd have thrown out just like you tried with me, taught me that dignity isn't found in bank accounts. It's in how we treat people when they have nothing to offer us. And here's where it gets even more incredible. Because what David did next proves that true success isn't measured by what you accumulate, but by what you give back." Klaus stammered an apology, suddenly obsequious, reaching for David's hand. David stepped back. "Keep your apology. I'll take my business to the dealership across town. Their salesman brought me coffee and listened to my story yesterday." He didn't see a beggar. He saw a human being. As David turned to leave, Thomas ran after him. "Wait, please." The young man's eyes were wet. "My father lost everything 2 years ago. He's living in his car. I've been too ashamed to help him, worried what people would think of me. You just showed me what a coward I've been." Thomas pulled off his dealership jacket. "I quit. If your offer still stands, I'd like to help you build something that matters." David studied the young man's face and saw genuine remorse, the kind that changes a life's trajectory. He extended his hand. "It stands. Welcome aboard." 6 months later, David's company employed 47 people who'd once lived on the streets. Thomas became his operations manager, and together they built something that changed lives every single day. The Mercedes dealership across town that showed David respect? They became partners in his mission, donating a portion of every sale to homeless services. And Klaus? He still runs that showroom, but now it's known as the place that laughed at a man who wanted to help others. This story is more than just poetic justice. It's a mirror held up to every single one of us, because here's the uncomfortable truth: we all judge. We all make assumptions based on appearances, circumstances, or 5-second impressions. But every person you pass on the street, every individual you dismiss with a glance, has a story that could break your heart or inspire your soul. David wasn't special because he had money. He was special because he remembered what it felt like to be invisible, and he chose to make sure others were seen. If this story moved you, don't just feel something for a moment and scroll past. Look at the person everyone else ignores. Smile at the worker others treat as invisible. Leave that generous tip. Offer that helping hand. Because kindness isn't just a feel-good concept. It's the only currency that truly matters when everything else is stripped away. And maybe, just maybe, the next time you're tempted to judge someone by their appearance, remember David. Remember that the person you're dismissing might be the one who changes your life. Or better yet, gives you the chance to change theirs. The world doesn't need more people with money. It needs more people with heart. Be that person, starting right now.